Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday morning trading room. Just a moment, we'll get the screen share going on. I see there's a couple new names in the room here this morning. Welcome. Please feel free to ask questions if there's something you don't understand or something you would like me to highlight. What you're looking at here is the diversified trading system, and just a really quick overview. You probably, if you're a new owner, you probably already recognize the Raptor down here. Top left, I have the Hawk Micro Scalper. Top right is the Falcon Swing Trader, and then here on the bottom left, we've got the Eagle Trend Trader. I'm following the NASDAQ. I've also got the Euro, dollar, and gold open on my other monitor, but don't be shy about requesting markets. Yeah, Scott says, did someone forget to open the market this morning? A soft start given what we've seen the last couple of days, but a huge rally through the overnight, marking the NASDAQ leaving off around 63.20 last night and opening this morning way up here around 63.67. So that's a big, almost 50-point gap. Which is pretty darn big. And it looks like there's no end in sight right now for the rally, as the bulls are giving a little bit of follow through from the overnight trading. Very often, if you see a definable trend at the open, a lot of times you'll see the market try to reverse that trend from the overnight. But so far so good for the bulls. For those of you who like those really early signals, here the Hawk produced actually a first micro-macro cross signal, if not on the opening bell, just a few minutes before it. That looking like it has some decent follow-through. The Falcon producing a trend change signal across here. The Eagle, let's see, did this signal produce, was this the first signal of the morning? Oh, it was, nope, sorry, it was pre-market. But that one too having some decent follow through to it. I'll just sit here and watch and wait. I imagine we'll get a little bit of a pullback somewhere through here. Maybe. lot of times we're just kind of sitting around here watching and waiting. The Falcon might be producing a late filter entry signal. That's kind of interesting. So the late filter entry signal on the Falcon occurs like this. When the filter goes out of sync, comes back into sync, but the trend line itself never changes direction. If you're following the Falcon and the late filter entry, you're going to notice a lot of times this trend line gets really, really flat. Those tend to be a little bit more reliable. This trend line, you see, has a little bit of a slope to it. But that is also a late filter entry, and you do have a chance at a second push on this entry. Can I cover it down there? Ooh, I can, just barely. The second push, all that means is we allow the signal to engage, we see where it flinches, and then we look to buy in on some renewed momentum if we can get it. It's one way to try to keep yourself on the right side of the market. But right now, it's all pretty quiet. We're starting to thrash about a little bit more. You can see the market retracing its current ranges, kind of going back and forth here. And this Falcon trade now spoiled because the trend line has changed and the filter has changed again. So we'll cancel that order for now. It looks like we're going to try to get back here to the hard edge. The Raptor already producing the counter trend signal. That's the number 2 signal. And I could probably see a retest here, a move back to the hard edge of the trading band. And here they come. Well, that was a fairly strong move lower, I would say. Okay, now that we're into the hard edge, we should anticipate some sort of reaction. Our tools are a little bit conflicted, however. You can see the hawk and the falcon already bearish. The eagle and the raptor still bullish. The eagle about to produce a red bar buy signal. We've got the warning dot as we're coming off of that hard edge. The falcon working a possible trend change signal, and the raptor right now still looking bullish. What I would expect from here is maybe a hard edge bounce. That would be the number 3 signal. Oops, there it is. Don't look away from your screen, Eric. So this now, the hard edge bounce, it didn't print because the faster cloud was actually tucked under here a little bit, but it is still a hard edge bounce. The market coming down to the hard edge, coming out and producing a buy signal. And we should anticipate a test of the extreme, a retest of the highs. Whether or not the market will push on past the highs, well, that remains to be seen. I got a little bit of bullish buying going on there. Come on now. Okay, I'm going to leave my stops here below the low of the morning. You know that opening gap has got to be calling to the sellers. They've got to want to short the market in the worst way. All right, I've hit the auto break even. So the trade now at break even, and hopefully they don't hesitate too much at this point. All right, hit the first profit target, and happen to have a runner in play on this one, so maybe, just maybe, the market will try to retest those highs. Or not. Yeah, I'm wondering whether this is turning into a bit of a bear flag. You see how quickly the market came down. They're fighting to get higher. This definitely has a little bit of a bear flag shape to it. And a breakdown below here, well, that would pretty much commit the market to trying to fill that opening gap. Well, that was fortunate and yet unfortunate because I would have done better had I just been all in, all out. Oh well. Okay, let's put that on the back burner for now. Got a little bit of additional buying going on. A lot of yellow bars here in the hawk. Just shows the pardon me, the neutrality in the market. While we're waiting, reminder, no trading room next week. All right, I wonder if we're going to get a counter trend signal here. There it is. There's the counter trend signal now on the Raptor. And can I cover it up there? Ooh, I can. Okay, this is a little bit aggressive, but just taking the context into account here. We've had a very strong uptrend through the overnight. The market has tried to rally out of the open, kind of hit the skids here, made a quick move lower, tried to move higher, and stalled again. So now we're coming back and the Raptor saying, hey, wait a minute. We're not so keen on heading higher. Maybe we should try the short side. We've got a completed short signal here. And if you wanted, if you were inclined, you could hold on below the lows of the morning, because if the market gets down below there, as I mentioned, we've got the big overnight gap. Now, I should just take profit on target, but you know what? Things are a little bit slow, so why don't we entertain ourselves and try to run this trade out a little bit. I'll put my break even down here around the low of the morning, because if we see a break there, then we'll probably get a little bit of a reaction, so it would be advisable to have your trade at break even. Floyd said crude oil is starting to move a little bit. Well, that would be a welcome change. Crude oil's been fairly dismal the last little while. Bear in mind, however, that this market is still technically in an uptrend. So, you know, the evils of counter-trend trading, you're giving up probabilities for a tighter stop, for knowing where your stop should be. Your stop obviously should be above the current high. You're also giving up, in most cases, the opportunity to get back with trend. If this market decides to rally now off of this hard edge bounce that we're producing, well, you're already stuck to the short side. So all these things need to be taken into consideration whenever you try a counter trend trade. And I think I've mentioned to you before that just going through my trading journal, almost without exception, the trades that have given me the most trouble have been counter trend trades. And by trouble, you can substitute the word losing money. So I don't know how many of you are down in the Texas area, but Adam sent me a picture this morning. I guess they got snow overnight. just the dusting, not real snow. But that's funny because we don't have snow yet. So for them to get snow in Texas, that's something. Okay, we're taking a little bit of heat on the short position. If the market is in fact changing direction, you shouldn't be too fast with your exit stops because the market a lot of times needs a little bit of room to turn around. Scott asks, how much snow do you get? You must get 15 to 20 feet. You're a funny guy, Scott. Here on the West Coast, we get enough snow to keep us humble. So around January, we'll get, I don't know, a few inches, 4 or 5 inches of snow. It is different snow, however. I grew up in the prairies in Alberta where it gets very cold and we get our share of snow there, but it's a drier snow. Here on the coast, because of the humidity, the snow is very wet, great for making snowballs and snowmen, not so good for driving because as soon as it hits the road, it becomes icy. So I remember when I was a young know-it-all, watching the newsreels in the news highlights when it snowed on the West Coast and all the cars slipping and sliding and bumping into each other and pointing my finger at them and saying, ha ha ha, they don't know how to drive in the snow. No, it's not that. The snow out here is very, very icy. Now, just north of us here on Vancouver Island, a couple hours north, in a little community called Courtney, there's a ski resort at Mount Washington. My wife used to have a business up on Mount Washington, and we would spend the winters up there. And on Mount Washington, we would get 3 or 4 feet of snow overnight. Mount Washington's just under 5,300 feet, but it's in what they call a snow funnel. So if it's snowing anywhere on the world, it's snowing on Mount Washington. In fact, it's probably snowing on Mount Washington right now. The biggest snowfall year we had on Mount Washington, we had 90 feet of snow. In fact, there was so much snow when you were going up the chairlifts, and if you've ever been on a ski resort, you know how tall those towers are, right? They're like 40, 50, 60 feet in the air. Well, your skis would be touching at spots. In fact, they had to dig out from underneath the chairlifts with the snow equipment, with the snowcats. And some of the properties that we were looking after, we actually had to tunnel into, or those that were condos you could enter on the balcony. So it was a pretty remarkable snow year. And then just to change things up, next year for Christmas they didn't have any snow. So there you go. All right, coming back with a cloud crossover signal off of the hard edge again, so you can really see the fight going on here between the buyers and the sellers. I'm obviously already short. Using a second push entry, well, I probably would have got brought in on that bar right there, to be honest. So I'm pretty much stuck on the short side right now. Yep, 90 feet, Scott. That was a lot of snow. It was always fun to see the Australians. You could pick them out easy enough before they even said a word. You didn't have to hear their accent, because they would be around the back of the building, adults and children alike, all giddy and laughing and making snow angels and throwing snow at each other and stuff. Because, of course, they would never see snow down in Australia. So they thought it was great. Well, if the sellers don't hurry up, I'm going to start bringing my stops in, because I'm not happy with what the sellers are doing here, which is not much. Russell says, it's one of the few snow days here in the great state of Texas. Tell Adam I'll let him borrow my snowblower. Oh, Anthony's looking to get short. Or has a short target, 62.89. You're always swinging for the fences, Anthony. I can tell you that. That would be a rather substantial move. Mark says, in Wisconsin, I try to stay off the road the first time there's any accumulation every year. Seems everyone forgets how to drive in the snow. Always a thrilling challenge to test your defensive driving skills. Yep, that is the truth, isn't it? Here on Vancouver Island, between us and Victoria, there's the Malahat. Technically, it's called a mountain, although we don't refer to them as mountains because it's what's it at? I think it's only at 1,000 feet or a little over. Not a real mountain here on the West Coast, but at any rate, it tends to get a little slick when it starts to snow. So you try to stay off the Malahat when it's snowing, if you can help it. Getting quite the pennant style consolidation going on here. All right, looking for that fourth bounce. That fourth bounce usually well, if I count that as 1, 2, 3, this could be number 4 here. We'll see. Very often with these tight little consolidations, the ones that are quiet, see how the range is relatively small here? these usually continue from the original trend. The ones that become more violent with bigger ranges, oh, it's not going to scale now because I'm in the trade, but if you go back, oh, why don't I do it on a different chart? So if we go back, see how these ranges here are relatively calm and the market continues higher. This was not much of a reversal, but here we go. See how these ranges are bigger? These ranges tend to lead to reversals. Smaller ranges tend to lead to continuations. Not always, but that's just a little rule of thumb for you to follow. If the consolidation is pretty quiet, you can very often anticipate a continuation of the trend. And if it's more violent, more bigger swings, then a lot of times we'll see a reversal. Yeah, I'm with you, Anthony. Anthony says, I need that $100 million. That's why he's swinging for the fences. Yeah, that'd come in handy. The buyers are holding on. But the volume and volatility seems to have drained right out of the market. We're through our opening range and nothing. Just for out of curiosity, let's see. Yeah, I was going to say, let's take a look here at the order flow just briefly. And, oh, it's picking up a little bit. I was going to say, when the market's this quiet, I bet you the order flow, because I was watching here the Geiger counter, and I saw just these single-digit numbers. I was going to say, I bet you there's not many orders stacked here. And these are relatively small. Usually when you start getting up here 4, 5, 6 levels removed, from the current price, there you go. We saw 100, 105, 120. Those kinds of numbers are more normal when the order flow is light and the market is not going anywhere. You usually hardly see any any market participation. So not much to look at, but a little interesting point. Yeah, Mark says he's in the March contract already, but there's no real volatility there either. The two will move pretty closely together. you know, you can roll into the March contract next week for sure. More traders will be doing that. All right, so there's the number 3 signal now, a little bit of a bounce up. Yeah, it is a tight little market right now, no question. Very balanced. Very balanced and very boring. Yeah, Peter says it must be Friday. Ain't that the truth? Friday, is tends to be the slowest of the trading days, no question. Okay, getting a little bit of follow through now. I'm wondering whether that break even is going to be too tight. And my profit target might be a little overly ambitious, but we'll see. Oh dear, so close. Oh, Anthony says he's looking at a trend change. Well, could be. Overall, the market is still very, very sluggish. And not much in the way, like I said, of market participation. I'm just looking around here at the other markets. Everything is very, very dull today. Okay, we're going to take another run at the low here. You know, the signals flip-flopping back and forth here as well. It just goes back to context, right? You have to look at the context of your chart. And when you see a sideways market like this, recognize it that it is sideways, and that you shouldn't anticipate too much from your signals at this point. Rather, you should be waiting for the market to get outside of this trading range and then looking for a signal to produce. Well, didn't make much progress there. So we're going to challenge these lows here again around the 63, 64 area. Obviously, all the buying that's been going on here, there should be some exit orders below here. Peter asks, it's been flat for an hour. Is this a sign for the rest of the day? I almost think it might be, Peter. In fact, I'm quickly losing my interest. We'll stay with it for a little bit longer, but honestly, I'm just about ready to call it a day. The way they're behaving. Excuse me. Come on. Hey, way to go, Peter. Peter says, I rarely trade on Fridays. Since reviewing my journal, this was my worst day to trade. This week, I'm just up over $2,500. Nicely done. On a total of 9 trades. So good for you, Peter. That's a decent week. Ooh, Peter says, good news, Mrs. Santa gave me permission to buy the Profit Finder. Adam just, before I forget, Adam just gave me a discount code. If anybody is interested in picking up something, if you enter that discount code that I just put into the chat window, let me see, what was the discount? I'm thinking the discount was 20% because of the code, but 1 second. While I find his email. Yeah, 20% off if you use that code. And that's good, obviously, for Profit Finder or any of the other tools that you would like to see under the Christmas tree this Christmas. Anthony says, I'm noticing your data is off. My data is different from yours. Are you trading a SIM account? Oh, and Anthony says, oh, I'm in the March contract. Yeah, that's probably the discrepancy. But for those of you who don't know, yes, when I'm in the trading room here, I am trading live, but this is a SIM account. And the reason for that is, well, because if you haven't already noticed, a lot of times I'll go off on a little tangent explaining something, and I would never be doing that on my real money account. All right, well, what do we got going on here? A whole lot of nothing here in the Hawk. We have just produced a first micro-macro cross lower, so that's semi-encouraging, but really not much of a day going on here today. So kudos here to you, Peter, from Mark, and a good point that Mark makes as well. Nice work, Peter. He says that's a testament to following a plan and keeping a journal. That stuff works if you stay disciplined and focused. And it is so true. You know, trading journals are such a valuable tool for you. And yet so few traders do it. Just the simple act of writing something down, writing down the reasons for your trade, writing down what you learned from your trade, good trades and bad, you would be amazed what a trading journal will do for your trading results. Well, I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay with this trade. In fact, I may, if it drifts back down here into a little bit of a profit, I may just snap it to break even and call it a day. Unless anyone has any objections or if you have any questions, I think we may just close up the trading room here this morning. If you are going to try to trade this afternoon, I don't know what to tell you. The market, big gap below the current range, but it seems to have no interest in filling it, and likewise it has no interest in heading higher either. Yeah. All right, guys and girls. All right then, we'll button things up for the week. A reminder again, no trading room next week, and you can think of me as I'm helping on my friend on his house. All right, have yourselves a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.